the third generation, the second generation, or the first generation. But with the fourth generation, you can be able to create a mobile application. So apart from the fourth generation programming languages, now what the, the direction that is being taken is the direction of object-oriented programming languages, where instead of using codes to write your program, now you use objects. An object is anything that you can give attributes. A person is an object. A student can be an object. A computer can be an object. Anything that you think of can be an object. Then these objects will give it attributes. Attributes are characteristics. Like you can say that a student can have a registration number, can have a name, can have a class, can have an age, can have anything that a student can have. You can think of any other object like a car, and you can say that a car can possess some attributes. A car can have a make, can have a model, can have a number of doors, can have the drive, either is it on the left or on the right, all those are attributes. So anything that you can give an attribute or characteristics, then that is what you are calling an object. And as we continue with this unit, we shall go as far as identifying some of the languages that you can be able to use when you want to use objects in your programming. So this programming that we shall be using high-level languages. And high-level languages, as just as I mentioned earlier, they have rules. Rules which you need to follow for you to be able to create a program. If you violate any of these rules, then you get an error. Just like the normal language. If you want to construct a sentence, there are those rules that are followed for you to be able to construct a sentence. If you don't follow those rules, then you may come up with something that is not a sentence, something that will not have a meaning. So similarly, when you are using programming languages, there are those rules that you need to follow so that you can be able to create a statement that will be understood by the computer. Remember, we are writing a program for the computer. So for the computer to be able to use that statement, then it must be able to understand it. If you write a statement to tell the computer to unmute the mic or to mute the mic, then you need to tell it how to do it. If you don't tell it in a way that it will be able to understand, then you will not be able to communicate. And if you don't communicate, you get an error. Just the way if you want to talk to a person in a language that that other person does not understand, then it will not be very easy. You need to put it in a way that the person will be able to understand. We have mentioned that a computer only understands the machine code. That is binary. If we write our programs in high-level languages, English-like languages, this language is not understood by the computer. So for it to be able to understand, for the computer to be able to understand whatever you are saying, then you must tell it. You must translate this program into a language the computer will be able to understand. So these rules are several, and the first rule is the syntax. And the syntax is the rules of the language. These are the rules that govern the way you construct the words, the symbols, the expressions, so that the computer can be able to understand. Just as we know how you can be able to have a subject in English, and a verb, an adverb, and the way you can be able to combine it so that this sentence makes sense to a person reading that particular cell. So similarly, if we want to create a computer program, then we do it using some rules. For example, you may be told you cannot use a particular word. For example, you cannot use a word like "if" if you want to create a computer program. This is simply because "if" has a special meaning in programming. It has a special meaning. So you cannot be able to use it as a variable when you are writing a computer program. Then there are the semantics, and the semantics are the rules that govern meaning. They are the rules that govern meaning. For example, if you are told that C programming is case sensitive. Case sensitive means that capital I is not the same as small I. Uppercase I is not the same as lowercase I. So if you don't follow those rules, then you will get errors. So for you to be able to do all that, then you need to learn these rules of a particular programming language so that you can be able to create the program the way you want the program to be. So once you create the program, we have mentioned that the computer will not be able to understand that particular program. Whichever program that you write, since it is in high-level language, then the computer will not be able to understand. So for you to make the computer to understand this, then you need to use translation software. And the translation software, there are quite a number, but we want to restrict ourselves to assembler, compiler, and an interpreter. Assembler was used with the assembly language. And I remember we had said that assembly language we were using mnemonics and abbreviations. So since this could not be understood by the computer, then there was need of an assembler. Assembler is just a program. It's another program. It's a software that is used to convert from the assembly language into machine equivalent so that the computer can be able to understand. Nowadays, we are not using the assemblies because we are not using the assembly language. Instead, we are using a compiler. And a compiler is used to translate from high-level source program into a machine code such that the computer will be able to understand. What the advantage we have is that we don't need to bother about the compiler. Each programming language that is in the market today comes loaded with its compiler. So what you need to do is to use the text editor to type the program the way you want it to be. Then after you write the program in high-level language, you just tell the same program to convert into a language that the computer will be able to understand. And that is already inbuilt, so we will not need to bother. We will not need to bother on how to get the program. Samuel Mwangi is saying that he cannot be able to get us. Is it a common problem or is just him? Are you able to hear the sound? You can unmute and just talk.
Yes, I'm able to hear.
Or you are able to hear. Samuel Mwangi, you can take your mic. Maybe there is a problem. Oh, there is a lot of echo. Let me see whether I can change the position. So if there is, I don't know, but we will manage for now. We will use a different software next time where we may not have a lot of issues. But for now, let's bear with it. It is our first time. We are trying to get used into this. So Samuel, are you able now? Samuel, check, and if there is still a problem, you can just refer to the notes. So as I had mentioned, the compilers come together with the language, so we don't need to bother how it is done. Once you write your program, you just click a button in the software that you're using, and the program is compiled for you. Compilation is just converting from the source code, it's converting from the program that you have written, that is the source code, into an executable format, into a format that can be executed. So it's converting from a source program into the executable program. Executable program is the one that can be able to run. And any program that you are using has been converted into its executable format. Like for example, if you want to open a particular software like MS Word, when you are clicking that button for MS Word, you are just activating, or you are just telling the computer to run that particular program. So the program that you are running is the executable format of your program. So after the translation process is done either through the use of an assembler that we have said was being used many years ago. Currently, you are using a compiler, and the compiler will read through the entire source code, and if it encounters an error, it will report that error and continue up to the end of the program. If there is no error, then it will convert it into the executable format, and it is this executable format that will run so that you can be able to create, to solve the problem that you intended to solve initially. So compilation should not be a problem with that to us, because it will be done by the programming language that we shall be using. So after compilation, there is also interpretation. My notes have not seen interpretation. There is another software that you can use to convert from the source code into executable format, which is called a translator. So not a translator, interpreter. Is called an interpreter. We have seen that a compiler translates the old program, then it executes. An interpreter will translate one word, one line at a time. It will translate one line at a time. So it will pick the first line, translate that. If it is okay, it will execute it. Then go to the next line. So translation and execution alternate for each line. The problem with interpretation, if it encounters an error, then it will discard any other thing that has been done before. So a compiler is the best, because it will translate the old program, then after that it will execute the program. So this translation is divided into two. It's divided into lexical analysis, and in this it is just checking the validity of the words that you have used, that is data names and operators. We shall later see these data names that we are talking about. For you to be able to create a program, then you need to tell the computer what to expect, and you tell it what to expect by creating data names or identifiers. And these identifiers have some rules that you need to follow. So if you don't follow the right rules, then you will get an error about the identifiers. The identifiers are what you are calling data names. So for you to be able to add two numbers, maybe you have called the first number 1, and the second number you have called it number 2. Those are the data names. And the data names have rules which we shall look at shortly. So the first part of interpretation or compilation is to check the validity of your data names. If you use a name that is not valid, then the computer will tell you this name is not valid. Then we have the operator symbols. The operator symbols are what we know, what we have known since standard 1. The operators are either addition, multiplication, division, subtraction, and they keep on changing depending on the language that you are using. So these operators, they have a meaning, and you have to use it the way it is supposed to be used. If you don't use it as expected, then you get an error. Then after that, after checking the word, it also checked for reserved words. Reserved words are what we said. These are words that have special meaning in a particular programming language. So if it has a special meaning, like for example, start, then you use it in your program, then it will not be accepted. Then the second part of compilation is checking the program statement for correct grammatical form. So each statement has a way through which you can be able to do it. For example, if you want to add 2 numbers, we say pick number 1, add number 2. Number 1 should be in the form that has been written in the data name. Number 2 still should be the same. Then it will check whether you have followed that order. And if you have done it, then it will accept that as a valid statement. If you have not done that, then it will give you an error. So it will also check whether the complex statements are statements that are made up of more than one statement. We have the single statement like add number 1 and 2, that is a single statement. But you can have a block of statements that you want to be executed together. Those blocks should also make sense to the computer. If they don't make sense, then you get an error. And the third phase of translation is now generating the executable code. So that code is the one that now translates each statement into equivalent machine code. Remember, we have mentioned that one statement in high-level language can be resort to many machine code statements. Then after that, it allows you now to execute the program as you were expected. So once you create a program, and after you translate the program, now you can be able to check whether it is working the way you wanted it to work by running that particular program. To run a program is just to tell you to execute, and you key in the numbers that you expect. So interpreter is coming much later. Here we have mentioned what an interpreter is. So do we have any questions or any point that we need to be clarified on? Any question? Any question?
No.
If there is no question, that is the first lesson, just an introduction of what we expect to come to meet as we continue with this. We need to understand what a program is. We need to know that for you to create a program, you need a programming language. And for you to use a particular programming language, then you need to know its grammar. You need to know its syntax. You need to know is semantics, so that you can be able to use that particular programming language. So basically, those are the basic concepts that we needed to go through before we begin creating our programs. So if no question, then I will move to the next stage, and the next stage will show us the stages that we follow if we want to create a computer program. So allow me to
Yeah. We can hear you.